Hello, Truth Seekers. Lawrence here, and welcome to Easy Enlightenment. So, spiritual enlightenment or spiritual freedom is essential. It is important. It is important because right now life is suffering. Life is full of inner conflict and fear. And the fear exists because the truth is missing. And spirituality stands as a ray of hope. It is a hope when we understand what is enlightenment or what is true freedom, and when we understand how to get to the truth. And if what and how is understood, and with that, if we be part of this path, then there is a chance of being free from the inner conflict and fear. It is. Now, spirituality is needed, no doubt, because of the ongoing struggle. And one can be free from the struggle when it's done right. Now, when people get interested in spirituality, people start to get really serious with their devotion to God or devotion to truth. Now, there is that seriousness, and seriousness is important in the spiritual practice. One has to come together, organize oneself in the path to be free. Now, there's two kinds of seriousness in the spiritual practice. One is seriousness with mindfulness or awareness. And that kind of approach can help the person to unentangle oneself from all the faults, and one will make oneself able to see the truth. Now, that kind of practice is necessary. Right now, the spirituality is already confusing because of so much information, so much ideas, and awareness is necessary in the practice to make oneself not to get distracted. So that is the important attitude one must have. Now, another seriousness is a blind seriousness. Seriousness without mindfulness, without awareness, without understanding what is truth and the how part, how to get to the truth. And if the awareness is missing, if the information is missing, if the reference is missing, then the seriousness doesn't help the person to dissolve the ego. Instead of dissolving the ego, the person is actually inviting further more layers in oneself and making one's ego more stubborn. The ego is already stubborn and the further work is not helping to loosen the ego. So that kind of approach is not good in the spiritual path. That is simply making the person go blind. And when the person becomes blind, that attitude doesn't help the person to be free from their own ego. And when these persons are involved in the spiritual world, that can lead to spread the misinformation about the spirituality, and that doesn't help the world. And unfortunately, these are the people who becomes the guide in the spiritual world, making the innocent seeker go blind in their innocent journey. So this whole journey becomes blind leading the blind. That's why it is really important to know what the true spirituality is and how to get to the truth. And the reference the person need in the spiritual practice is true freedom or spirituality is not an idea, or God is not an idea, truth is not an idea, true freedom is not an idea. It's not idea, it's not a belief, it's not the mind. That has to be the reference, a reminder for the people who are involved in the spiritual path. And the how part is subtracting the mind or dismantling the mind backward, or tracing the mind backward until no mind is left. These are the simple reference is needed in the journey to be free. So one must have this as a background. If person is interested, if you are interested to be spiritually free or to realize the God nature in you, what you need is being aware of yourself and tracing the mind backward. And that's the way to figure out the unchanging truth. Now, having this reference and devoting oneself in dismantling the mind, this kind of seriousness will help the person, will help the individual to be free from the inner conflict and fear. But without knowing, without understanding the journey, without having the right reference, it doesn't help, and it's just a journey of fueling one's own ego and getting stuck in the spiritual path. There is an effort, but the effort doesn't lead the person to see the truth, and some people realize that it's not working, and there's a change of attitude. The openness comes in to realign with the real journey. And if that's the case, then there's opportunity to see the truth. And some don't realize it's not working. If they see it's working, then it's working as a distraction, is a momentary freedom, and getting stuck in the momentary freedom and repeating that path is simply makes the person numb and just gets stuck in that phase of the spirituality. And right now, that's the scenario how the world is moving. The spirituality is outwardly, the process is outwardly, or if it's inwardly, then the ego is only doing the spirituality rather than dissolving the ego. So that's the scenario in the spiritual practice. So it is important to know what we're doing in the spiritual path. So once in a while, it is important to step back and see what's happening in the spiritual journey. So that way we can avoid the pitfalls, we can avoid the distraction. And trust me, there is so much distraction in in the spiritual path, and there is the reminder in the spiritual path to avoid the distraction, so you can, face towards the truth rather than turning your face away from the truth. And that happens. Distraction makes the person turn the face away from the truth and get stuck. Anyway, spirituality is important. It is important because life is a suffering right now, and to overcome the suffering, it plays as a ray of hope. And it is a hope. Again, it is a hope when it's done correctly. And when it's important, when it's essential, there is a seriousness in the practice, and it is important to be serious to some extent. So seriousness is required, but the blind seriousness is not. So that way we are, moving in the right direction of loosening the ego, eventually letting go of the ego ultimately. And to make that happen, again, subtracting the mind or dismantling the mind or tracing the mind backward is the path that can help us get there. Okay? And another thing is that this whole journey is about you. It's about figuring out the true nature of who you are. So it's about figuring out you, and you don't have to be crazily serious. It's resting in who you are. So especially if you're blinded by the ideas of spirituality, the stories of the spirituality, and the story is making you get serious in a way that you're loosening, you're forgetting it's about you. Then it doesn't help. It's about figuring out the truth of who you are, and we don't have to get so serious that we are so blinding ourselves, and we just we are creating the chaos along the way. That kind of effort is not needed. Okay, so it's about you. And to see your true self, true face, all you need to do is dismantle. Okay, anyway, I hope this video makes sense. Be serious, but serious in a right way, where your awareness is present and your right reference is present in the path. So that way you can really helping yourself to make yourself free from your inner conflict and fear. Okay, that's all in this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care for now. Bye.